With the event just over a week away, iPads still seem to be the main event, but what else could we see at Apple's first May event in almost 25 years? I'm iCaveDave and I simplify Apple so that everything just works for you, and after we've talked about the event, there is a bunch of audience questions, so stay tuned and drop yours in the comments with hashtag iCaveAnswers if you want it answered in a future show. So, rapid fire, at the event we're expecting iPad Pro in 11 and 13 inch sizes with new OLED displays, M3 chips, landscape-focused FaceTime cameras, and potentially some kind of Magsafe charging, my guess being iPhone-style puck chargers over the Magsafe that we get on the Mac. These could also be getting new aluminium MacBook-style keyboards replacing the current Magic Keyboard, which is all fabric-y with the trackpad, and potentially even adding function keys. Then, the iPad Air gets M2 Schrodinger's mini LED display in the 12.9-inch newer, more bigger model, with Ross Displayman saying that it was coming, and then saying that actually, nah, maybe it's too expensive, but in Q4, something will get it. But what? Another big iPad that's new? I'm intrigued. iPad Air will also get the landscape cameras, and I'd expect MagSafe there too, but who knows? And I'd love to see Face ID coming to replace the Touch ID power button on the iPad Air as well. I don't think I've heard anyone else mention that it will happen, so don't hold your breath, but that would be great. Then, based on the release logo, maybe yet another Apple Pencil, because then they can have their own Steve Jobs style 4-product grids. Why on earth so many? Who knows? But if they finally make use of the patent they've had for years for a camera in the tip of an Apple Pencil so that you can sample colours from the real world, then bring on Apple Pencil Ultra, or whatever they're going to call it. What else? Maybe a new iPhone colour. Spring is the time for it, and it just about still counts as being spring right now. I'd go for Product Red. That's been missing this year. Where's Product Red been? And finally, for this event, I could see Vision Pro getting its international rollout. Now, we're hearing that US sales have fallen off a cliff just recently, so release it overseas instead of cutting the production, and that will keep the momentum going. And if nothing else, we'll have it in way more developers' hands ahead of WWDC, which is when we'll be getting visionOS 2.0. Now, sadly, I don't think we'll be seeing any iPad base models or iPad mini updates, but we could get the 9th generation with its Lightning port discontinued, and maybe then a nice little price drop to, I don't know, $399 on the 10th gen iPad? We can dream, right? Right, on with your questions. And these were all left down in the comments using hashtag iCaveAnswers. So, Brad Wender's pod asks, hashtag iCaveAnswers, no new iPads in 2023 was unusual, and now we're hearing rumours of a 12.9-inch iPad Air, potentially with the mini LED display from the iPad Pro. Do you think the delay and the lack of iPads last year was to wait for the iPad Pro to have OLED before bringing mini LED to the iPad Air? Well, as I say, it sounds like that's not what they're going to be doing anymore. Like, this is just broken yesterday. So sorry. It would have been great. I was even talking to people in Apple stores today in Birmingham and saying, like, oh, I hear that the mini LED might be coming to this iPad Air. They hadn't even heard of a bigger iPad Air coming. Not that they'd tell me anyway, but yeah, sadly not. I think the delays have actually been with those OLED displays. Yeah, it's annoying, but at least they're coming now. Evan Rogers asks, iCave discussion. I know you're a big fan of the M1 Mac Mini with no plans on upgrading soon. What would you need to see or be able to accomplish with a new computer in order to recommend upgrades for the current M series Mac owners? So this is the thing. If you've got an Apple Silicon Mac and you haven't really changed what your workload is, you don't need to upgrade. You don't. If you've got an M1 and you're still doing the kind of things that you did with your M1 in the first place, you don't need to upgrade it. It's absolutely fine. If you've got an Intel Mac, then yes, 100% upgrade it. They're horrendous compared to Apple Silicon. I know this. I've been using my old one to try and do some stuff. It's not good. It's not a good experience. But what would I need it to do? Something different, and that's the problem. I don't think there's going to be anything massive. It's going to be interesting to see what Apple brings with this kind of AI focus on the M4 chips, but we've already got neural engines and stuff, and they might just be software locking stuff if that's the issue, but we will see. It would have to be something pretty fun though. But I don't just have M1, I've also got an M2 MacBook Air, which is what we're recording this on. Team Kinetics Media asks, iCaveAnswers, rumours are that iPadOS 18 will have a calculator. How amazing is this calculator going to be after 14 years in development? Well, this is the thing, it's waiting until iOS 18, which is the AI year of everything, so presumably an AI-based calculator that can make up results if it's not sure. That sounds kind of fun. In all honesty, though, we're also hearing of a big overhaul to the Mac calculator app. I don't know why we need to overhaul it. It's a calculator, but it may well be that that's going to be a Catalyst app that comes to the iPad and then also comes to the Mac, and that would be pretty fun. Rob Lincoln asks, iCave answers, Dave, am I insane? I think Apple updates its chips and devices every year so that whenever people are ready to upgrade, they have the latest and greatest iteration of the device. Yet I hear grumbling that this is planned obsolescence by Apple. Seems to me the consumers benefit far more than they are disadvantaged by this policy. Yes, I completely agree. This is something that Rennie Ritchie has said for years. It's like going to a bakery. Just because you don't need to buy bread every day doesn't mean they should only bake at the beginning of the week and then leave stale bread sitting out. If they're going to bake bread every day, you're always going to get the freshest bread, and that's what I like. I like a nice fresh Mac. But yeah, I do agree. Some people seem to think that because there's a new Mac coming out, that their one is somehow less good than it was. It's not. It's exactly as good as it was. It's just that there's also something else there for the people that are about to buy a Mac and haven't wanted to wait a year. Team Kinetics asks, iCave answers, Delta emulator on iPhone looks really great in a recent video by Maxtech. Retro Nintendo games on the iPhone is very exciting. The app isn't available in the EU but is available in the UK. So, 1, is this a Brexit benefit? Number 2, does this suggest that the UK won't get sideloading or alternate app stores? Well, right now the UK isn't getting the sideloading and alternate app stores because that is an EU directive, and if we're not part of the EU, then we wouldn't get it. I'm fine with that anyway, don't really care. I'm sure that the emulator stuff can also come to the EU. There's nothing to stop it from Apple's side. In fact, the people that are releasing it or have released it have also started one of those alt stores for the EU. So maybe they have put it out in the EU, but it's only gone into their own store and not into the main one. That might be it. I'm not 100% sure on that part, but yes, Delta is good. I have downloaded it. I have tried it out. It works really well. I would recommend, if you want to try it, do pair a controller to it, like an Xbox controller or something like that, because in all honesty, the on-screen controls are fine, but not exactly great because there's no feel to them, so you don't know if your fingers moved off the D-pad a little bit. But Delta can emulate everything from like original Game Boy, Game Boy Advance, DS, I think Nintendo 64, Genesis, and a few other things, assuming you have the ROMs from the cartridges that are still in your collection, I'm sure. Pokemon Scarlet asks, iCave answers, which AirPods do you own? Are you looking to upgrade anytime soon? So the AirPods that I have are the AirPods 3rd generation, so it's the non-Pro, the non-Max, the standard AirPods. I think they're great. I have no intention of upgrading at this point. If something else comes out and it's got more features and it's pretty cheap, I might give it a go, but I don't feel the need to. Pokemon Scarlet asks, iCave answers, will the M4 MacBook Air 15-inch be a big upgrade in terms of efficiency or performance, or will it be a minor one like M2 to M3? What's the timeline on Face ID on the Mac? Well, number one, M2 to M3 was a pretty big jump. You got the ray tracing built into the GPUs. It is like 21% faster or something. That's a much bigger jump than you get with most generational chip increases, so I don't think we can complain about that. Also, though, we're not going to get a big jump like Intel to M1 again. That was like a once-in-a-lifetime thing for us. Like, that is when you change chip architecture. That ain't happening again anytime soon. Windows is just getting their time with that, going over to the Snapdragon chips. In terms of Face ID on the Mac, I don't know if it's actually ever going to be possible, certainly not in the next 3 or 4 years, I wouldn't have thought, and the main reason for that is the lids are so thin, there isn't enough space to physically put the sensors in there, so you can't have it. Pokemon Scarlet asks, iCave answers, will we get an iPhone that's over 7 inches in the near future? I mean, we'll be at 6.9 inches this year, so it's not that far off. I don't think we're going to go over 7 inches, but who knows at this point. We might do, but 6.9 is already enormous. There's no reason. Anything over 7 inches, you're into tablet territory. It's not a phone anymore. Pokemon Scarlet 18 asks, iCave answers, are you excited for the iPad Air 12.9 inch? What would get you to upgrade your iPads? Will Vision Pro kill the iPad down the road? I do think that the iPad is the one thing that is most at risk from Vision Pro. Most of the people that I've spoken to, Viper, people like that, have all said that Vision Pro has replaced what they do with their iPads. But I also think like the iPad form factor is very useful for things like art and being able to sketch and that kind of thing. And that's what I think it's supposed to be for. I don't think it should be like a laptop replacement. But, you know, it could go either way. Am I excited for it? No, because I'm not in the market for a stupidly large iPad. I want a mini. But I do think for shops and places where they want to have like tethered devices, you know, retailers that want to use iPads as registers, it's a really, really good thing because the price is going to be so much lower than the iPad Pro that they've been using at the moment to get that 12.9-inch display. Pokemon Scarlet asks, iCave answers, how far away is the new MacBook Pro redesign? Will Apple be able to make it thinner while keeping the same ports and battery life? I'd rather them keep the thickness and increase the battery life further. What are your thoughts? We've had this design since 2021 at this point, and typically Apple goes for about 4 or 5 years before they change a laptop design, so we're not that far off. I think we're going to have one more generation. Maybe M5 will get the redesign, maybe M6, but does it need redesigning? I don't think so. I don't think they're going to make it thinner because then you physically won't be able to fit the ports on the side, especially things like HDMI, which is a bit legacy at this point, let's be honest. Put the USB-C on there, everyone's happy. But I also don't think they're going to make the battery any bigger because they can't and let you take it on an aircraft. So why would they make it bigger if it would stop you from being able to actually travel with a laptop? And that's it for this show, guys. Thank you so much for your comments. Thank you to all my lovely, lovely Patreons over on this side. If you've got a question, hashtag iCave answers down there. WWDC is coming up. If you want to get onto the t-shirt, fill in the form down there. iCaveDave.com/dubdub. And we'll see you in the next one. Want the latest Apple news, leaks and rumours? Subscribe and ring the bell.